a turkey wing bone caul. I'll show you how to make one. Here is your finished product. It's the bigger end of a turkey wing bone and the two smaller ones. I took a washer from an old faucet washer and I epoxied it on there, and you open the holes up like that so that you have the ability to suck air all the way through that. And this is one that I did last year. You can see it says 2024, and I put some red shrink wrap on it after I epoxied them together. But I'm going to show you how to make one of those today. I killed a turkey earlier this morning, and I have saved the wings. And this is the larger part of the wing right here, this bone. And these are where the two smaller ones are. And so what you want to do is you want to sever it right here, cut it off right here, cut it here between the two, pull all this off, get rid of all of that. And whenever you do, you'll have just the bones left. I'm going to do that. I'll be back in a few minutes and show you what they look like. You can see I broke it right here. That's the important thing, to get these things apart. I don't care about the feathers. I don't care about the skin. All I need is the bones. Okay, here's my large bone. And what will happen is we'll cut it off about right here, somewhere in here, and here, and leave this horn part right there that we will clean out. Now to get these other two. Almost there. There we go. There's the middle bone. And we'll use this part that's wider down to about, right through there. And then we need the smaller part, smaller bone. The smaller bone is the bone that will become the mouthpiece. That'll really dull a knife to do a lot of work on your bone. But there you go. There's the last bone. Now, while you're still outside here, take as much meat off as you can. Get as much off of it, scrape it off. And then you take these into the house and we will boil them. After we boil them, then we'll cut them apart and we'll actually clean them out with some wire. And I'll show you how you make the bell. And I don't know if you can see, but it's a little bit flat right through here. Flatter and thin, and that's the part of the bone that you use as a mouthpiece. Rounder on this end, so this one will go into the middle bone, the intermediate bone. Some people just use this one and the middle bone, and I may try that this year to see if I can make a little quieter caul. So now, clean them up a little bit in the house to do the boiling. And here they are. That's two wings, 6 different bones. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my hot plate on. I'm going to put it on high, and I'm going to get it to a boil, and I'm going to boil those. I'm going to turn it down to a simmer then and let it simmer for about 30 to 40 minutes so that the meat will all come off of those and everything on the inside will cook. And here they boiled, just simmered like this for about 45 minutes. That way you can get all the meat off of them, but most particularly the inside of the bones has actually cooked. So the marrow in there has cooked so that you can get it out. So now all you need to do is take them out, of course, flush the water and whatever, and let them cool. Okay, I refrigerated my bones overnight, put them in a a zip bag and put them in the refrigerator, in the door of the refrigerator. To continue this process in the next step, you're going to need these tools right here that you see. A flat screwdriver, some type of device that you can use to be able to work on the end of this bone after we cut it off, a length of rigid wire, and an angle grinder with a cutoff blade. See the thin cutoff blade? That's what you're going to need. And I'll get the camera mounted up here on the tripod and show you how I'm going to cut these off and what we're going to do next. Okay, just to let you see, I'm wearing proper eye protection. Wear proper hand protection. Proper PPE, personal protective equipment, is very important times like this, so be sure and do that. All right, I'm going to start with the large bone here. That's all you do. The intermediate bone. Small bone. Now you see, here are the 3 bones that you have remaining. And here's what you started with, right here. And so you don't use all of that bone, you just use this part. And look here, you're going to have to take this and you're going to have to work on it and dig and get all that out in there to make that hollow. And you can cut this off more if you wish, and I may do that. I may come down here and just cut it off to about right there. Kind of depends on how much of a horn you want, and that's a bit much, and so I'll probably take a little bit more off. But I'm also going to try, and then, excuse me, you take this wire right here with these, and you just push it through and try to get the marrow out. Let me get back over here where you can see it a little bit better. Get the marrow out. And that's the purpose of this wire, is to get all that marrow out. And then you have a bone that's empty. And of course I'll go back into the house and I'll use the water and we'll work on that. But you're going to get all that marrow out of these bones. And there you go. See, it's coming out now. And that's part of the reason that we cooked it last night. But you can look down in there and see that there's pink stuff and pink marrow in there. And you work until, by the way, let me show you this right here. It fell off. See right there? Right here? You work until you get all that out of the way. So we clean these out and we work around and we have a perfect hole there on that end, but not necessarily here. And so you do a little work with your screwdriver, and sometimes I get a drill out and put a drill bit in it and do a little work. But you can also take a really nice pocket knife, and be careful with your pocket knife, but you can carve some of that out. But you work on it until you finally get all this nice and clean. You get all these bits off of it that are left over from having cooked it. What we end up doing is we end up taking this piece and putting this piece with it. And you can see that I still have too much of this one, so I'll have to cut it off until that one will fit in there. And then you make sure that you got this rounded piece here up into this one, and that one's working fine. And some people will stop with this right here. And in fact, I'm going to make one of my two this year, one of these types of cauls right here, just a two-piece caul, and see how it works, because putting this horn on really makes it loud. And you know, turkeys in the wild are not extremely loud. In fact, the one that I called in yesterday and killed, the hens around me were just very faintly calling. And so I called very faintly and was successful. So I'm going to try this year, just a two-piece, and see how that works. I can always add this later. You can shorten these. So after you get to working on them, and you're working with them, and you realize this thing's a good inch or 2 inches too long, you can shorten it. It's not a problem. So you work this all through and try to get all this marrow out, and go to the water hose and use some forceful water through there, and you get all that out. But we've got to get all that marrow out, because that stuff will rot, and it will ruin the bone. Bones need to cure from the inside. Anyway, that's nothing for you to see, but let's see how these fit together. That one's a little closer than the other one. I may have to take a little bit more off, or shorten this up so that it'll get wider as we go up in here. But these have to be able to fit together. And this smaller one up into the larger one, and then this one up into here. And what do? You epoxy them together. So you take some clear epoxy and you epoxy them together, and you try to keep the same curve on all of them. You don't make them go against one another, and you curve it all in the same direction, and you get a nice natural looking caul. But anyway, there's how you take the wing bones of your turkey that you harvested, and you make a nice wing bone caul. There's the beginnings of a nice wing bone turkey caul. And you suck on those, and it makes a sound that is amplified. And after a bit of practice, you'll begin to sound like a turkey. And this is what Native Americans, the people of my heritage, used whenever they were hunting turkeys hundreds of years ago, thousands of years ago. So here's your finished product. There's how that bell looks whenever you finish that, like that right there. And this is how you use it. A little loud, but you learn to cup your hand over it, make it a little quieter. You get better as you practice. As you can tell, I'm a little bit out of practice. But there's your wingbone caul, and what I've done is I've added the year to mine. I put my special initial mark on it. You can engrave it, you can scrimshaw it, you can do all kinds of things. But you can also make these and give these to your friends. You can also give these to your kids, pass them down as heirlooms. Lots of people do that. So take the time this year and make yourself something that can become an heirloom in your family, a turkey wingbone caul. Hey, thanks for checking in on the channel. To help YouTube push this out to more people, please hit the like button, not because I need your affirmation, but because I need your help. Please help YouTube pass this along to ever more people. Thanks for checking in on the channel again. God bless you guys. Have a super day.